Welcome to Crafting Your Next Move.
Welcome to Crafting Your Next Move with Lori Kraft, Associate Broker with the Kraft team at Origin Realty Group. Lori is a top producing Houston Realtor with more than 15 years of experience helping clients buy and sell homes across the greater Houston area. Known for her honest advice and boutique approach, she and her team combine cutting-edge marketing with good old-fashioned service to deliver results that speak for themselves. I'm Leanne Lyon, and today we're talking about how to keep your home ready for showings when you've got kids, pets, or a schedule that barely has a free moment. Hello, Lori.
Hey, how are you?
Good to see you. Lori, when you first meet with sellers who have a full household, how do you help them set realistic expectations about what show ready actually means?
Well, first of all, you just described 90% of the sellers out there. Very seldom, especially in the market that I serve, it's oftentimes move up buyers. So now you have a situation where you have people that need to move up because they've actually outgrown their current home. So what that means is lots of clutter, toys everywhere, oftentimes more than one animal, kids running around. So their house usually looks a little chaotic because they need more space. But you don't want a buyer to walk into that and think, wow, I'm going to outgrow this house in 2 years. So yes, it does become a bit of a pickle. So part of it is just painting that picture for the seller, right? Explaining to them. And I often will do a memory pull for them. And I'll say, when you walked into this house, what did it look like? How did they have furniture arranged? Was there a lot of clutter? Did you usually, though, to be honest, your seller will say to you, I know it's cluttered. I know we have too much stuff. They usually are very aware of the problem. And so it's helpful for them to be very direct and say, okay, in this room, take this, this, and this out. And then sometimes they'll ruffle a little bit because they're like, we can't live without that. That's very, very critical. And in those cases, you have to be prepared to offer them an alternative. Give them somewhere else for that to have a house or have a place. Give them alternatives for, where things need to move. But if you know that there's really not good alternatives, that they're going to have to put that in storage for a while, you have to remind them that the goal is to get your house sold quick. So you only have to live like this for a couple months max.
What a brilliant strategy. I love that memory pull concept. I love it. I think a lot of sellers think they need to be perfectly spotless every minute of the day. What should they understand about how buyers really see lived in spaces?
Well, they do need to understand that buyers are grossed out by certain things and very tolerant of other things. So bathrooms are a big issue, and we talk about it all the time in real estate because it's an absolute truth. Kitchens and bathrooms sell homes, period. So if your kitchen looks dirty, unkempt, needs a deep clean, bathroom has, all your personal hygiene stuff all around, a razor, maybe there's hair in the sink, those kinds of things, buyers will walk in and walk out because they will just have the ick factor. So those two areas of the house you do need to maintain. And I recommend you clean everything up the night before you go to bed. So that way in the morning, if you get an early showing, then you can pick everybody up and move. But I also help my sellers prepare. They are not going to be able to take away all of a 2-year-old's toys. It's just not going to happen. That's ridiculous. It's also ridiculous to think that Fido doesn't need his food bowls and doesn't need, his toys, because dogs can be as big of a problem with clutter as kids are. So what I tell my people is I said, keep a laundry basket in each room. And then I make sure that and this probably will answer another question down the road here, but I like to make sure we have a 2-hour window for my people. So they aren't just like, oh God, I'm at work, the house is a mess, what do I do? So if you get that notification, it gives you an hour or so. You're going to take whatever junk is in the bedroom and you're going to pile it all up into that clothes basket. Now, if you've got room in the closet because the closet's cleaned out, you're going to shovel that into the closet. You're going to do that with every room. The rooms that you can't shovel that basket into some kind of closet or pantry, you're going to take them and you're going to set them in the back of the car. Load everybody up, dogs, kids, whatever, and you're gone for 45 minutes. And then you can come back and everybody has their own basket. If you've got older kids, you do that. You give them a basket and you say, this is yours. You're in charge of this. All of your things go in this basket. And you can get ugly with them and say, if you don't, I'll sell the things you don't put in your basket. So if you want them, you better put them in your basket. Kids are very receptive to that. They like being a part of the process and they like having a job. So it's a really good option for parents.
That laundry basket saved me when I was selling, for
See,
sure.
there
Very
you go.
helpful. Problem is, it sometimes ends up being in a box, and the box gets packed. Anyway, we digress.
Well,
For families with younger kids, what simple routines tend to make the biggest difference in keeping the house manageable without turning it into a daily overhaul?
routine, and little ones love routine. Actually, dogs like routine too.
Mhm.
So you set up a routine that you do first thing in the morning. If you've got school age kids or kids that are going into daycare and you're going off to the office, you set up that routine. Routines are not fun by nature. So you have to make them fun. Think about those little songs that they sing in daycares, clean up, everybody clean up. You get those kinds of songs. You give their children are very reward based. They're not very stick based. So punishment's very, it doesn't work very well. But if they know, sticker charts are great, that they had their room perfectly cleaned up and they got all their stickers, they get a big reward at the end of the week. Or maybe with little ones, you're going to need a reward even hourly sometimes. Did you have everything ready for the showing? Bam, you get a sticker. If mommy didn't have to come in and clean up after you, bam, you get a prize. So it just helps make it fun. And again, it keeps them in it. So now they have an investment in this process and it's not scary, it's exciting, and it's fun.
Very cool. As you mentioned, pets add a layer of complexity during showings. They can't clean up after themselves. So, what tends to matter most when helping sellers plan around dogs, cats, or even other animals?
Well, first of all, I've got one right now. You have to be prepared for that seller that's not going to be there, but the dogs are. So, and then if you've got older dogs or dogs that don't kennel well or that have a lot of medical problems, which, we don't always pick our animals anymore when we pick our kids, they evolve over time, right? So, make arrangements with a neighbor that loves your dogs and that you feel safe with your dogs, that they can come let them out or put them up as needed. In cases where that's not a possibility, you're going to need to find a way to kennel those animals. Cats are a whole different animal, literally, and I'll address that in a second. But dogs do well kenneled. For the most part, they like that denning feeling. But the question is, where do I put the kennel so they don't bark all the time? Well, laundry rooms don't really sell houses, I'll be honest. People are going to want to peek in and be out. They just want to know the space is there. That's all they really want. So oftentimes I'll recommend, especially for smaller dogs, put them in the laundry room. I usually ask my sellers, if I don't do it myself, to put a sign on there to say, dogs are in laundry room, please be aware. They are kenneled, but they will bark. So, because they will. As soon as you open the door, they're going to bark. Big dogs like German Shepherds, Rottweilers, Dobermans, any dogs that will scare people, and whether it's fair or not, pit bulls scare people too. You need to have a place for them to go, and that may be in the garage. In Texas, in our heat, very dangerous over the summer. So I worry about that. In the wintertime, same, it can get extreme cold, but you're usually not showing houses if we have a freeze. Um, that's where your neighbor dog walkers are great. See if you can get one on speed dial. You may, if you know you've got showings the next day, you may want to find a place for those animals so that they can be away. It's often a red flag for some people when they see dog bowls or dog toys out. So have a place for those too. Maybe you have a pull out drawer that you can just pile it in and close the door. Not that you're trying to hide the fact that you have animals, but you don't want to turn off a buyer immediately. When I said cats are a different animal altogether, it's because, hey, they are. But cats will run out the door and they get very anxious with showings and activity. And so they are likely to bolt. And those are ones they don't move well either. So it's not like you can go put them in a kennel or move them somewhere to their friend's house. They don't like that. So those are ones that I definitely would say, it's going to take some doing, some organization, but maybe they need to go in the laundry room. Maybe need a space that they can roam in, but we can close that door and say, cat is in the laundry room, please do not let them out. So they know they can peek, but they can't fully open the door. And that way the cat is safe. Litter boxes are big turnoffs, even though you think they're not smelling, they're going to smell. If you have cats, just be aware you've lost some of your buyers, because if you're allergic to cats, if you walk into a room with dander, you're going to have a reaction, a histamine reaction immediately, and they'll walk in, walk out. Because to get all of that histamine out is very difficult. You're redoing all the carpets, the drapes, and then you may or may not get it all. So just know that.
Yeah, we actually rehoused our cats for 3 months,
Mhm.
just to be sure, and it did
Yeah.
make it a lot easier. And they were more comfortable. They got to be with somebody who loved them, gave them lots of attention, and it was a really beautiful way to take care of them even though we miss them terribly.
And cats are pretty adaptive in terms of that.
Yeah,
They tend to just see you as the meal provider. So if they've got a good one, they're okay. And they'll be like punishing you for a couple weeks, and then they'll get over it and move on. So
totally.
dogs are not as resilient, unfortunately.
Right.
The other one that nobody talks about is snakes.
Ooh,
We have a lot of people that collect reptiles, that sell them. Be careful, because that can be an HOA violation. You need to know that right up front. And people that do this for a living don't smell it. But the minute you walk into a house with reptiles, it's like, oof, and you will smell it. For
mhm.
those individuals, I recommend getting a halo or something that will help pull out that odor, because it's not that the reptiles are leaving, like with cats and dogs, they're not leaving behind anything that will cause a histamine reaction. Well, they usually don't, but it's more that they just smell. They have an odor. So a halo will take care of that. It also takes care of antibacterial and stuff in the air. So that's expensive, but it might be worth it to make sure you can do that. If you have them in a garage, which a lot of people do that, or upstairs in a room, please warn the public, because nothing kills a sale than unexpectedly opening the door to a python, or a bearded lizard. That scares people too. So just be aware those things may turn off people. And back to what you said earlier, if you can rehouse them, that's ideal.
Sounds like you have a bit of experience with this.
Unfortunately,
Well, scheduling is often the biggest stressor. How do you work with busy households to balance that flexibility for buyers with the reality of school drop offs, work calls, and just everyday life?
well, I personally do not. Every agent's going to be different and have their own opinion about it, but we can set our super boxes so that they will not open before a certain time and they will not open after a certain time. So, for safety reasons, I generally will do 8 to 8 or 9 to 8. I don't like them opening later than that, because it's hard to catch people on ring cameras when it's really dark, things like that. And plus, it's too disruptive to the house. Um, it's hard to help sellers understand. Again, you have to go back to, this is a snapshot in time in your life, and it's going to be rough for a couple of months, maybe. And if we do our job, it'll be rough for a couple of weeks, and that's it. So just, you kind of have, there's some things you're going to have to accept. You're going to have to accept that people are going to want to do showings during your baby's nap time. They are going to want to show during dinner time. They're going to want to show right after work, and they're going to want to show first thing in the morning, because that's when they can go see your house. They're going to want to show on the weekends. What the nightmare seller is the one that says to me, Lori, I can only show at 2 o'clock on Tuesdays and Fridays, and I can't show on the weekends. We get those. And then I say, are you prepared to be on market for 6 to 8 months? And the biggest problem for us here in Harris and surrounding counties are your beach properties. And the reason that's a problem is because those beach owners, that they don't want to lose their income. A lot of them, they depend on that income to pay taxes and insurance, if not the whole note. They may need it for everything. So they can't turn down listings. They can't turn down, especially Airbnb, and they don't know until 2 or 3 days before. So they'll be booked all week. They will be booked all month. And you have a window of 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock when the cleaning people are there, and you can go in and pop in while the cleaning people are cleaning, and everything's in disarray. And so those properties, because of that nature, do take a lot longer to sell. And as a seller in the suburbs or a seller in town, you don't want to be that guy. You don't want to sit on market 365 days, because on the beach, it makes sense. On the beach, people go, yeah, that's about right for the beach. But in town, you're on market that long, people are like crazy seller, poorly priced, problem house, and they
Yep.
move on.
Well, smells, storage, and clutter can feel overwhelming when people are still living in the home.
Yeah.
What are a few practical strategies that help sellers keep those issues under control with minimal effort?
I know that it means people get frustrated because they feel like they're moving twice, but if you can get a storage facility, do that. The one thing that is hurtful to your sale, it's the most easy for people, but it really impacts your sale, is getting a pod and sticking on a driveway. So why would that impact your sale? Well, because what you've done is you've screamed to the market, I have outgrown my house. I do not have room for stuff. And you are likely to be in the same scenario in a couple months. So you don't want to do that. You want to make sure that the buyer for your house sees all the greatness that is your house. They don't want to see a bunch of clutter, but they also don't want to see a pod sitting on your driveway. So what I recommend is go ahead and get a storage facility, get one for 3 months, put as much stuff as you can in there. In the event that that is really not something you can do, then what I recommend is you put it in the garage. And people are like, well, won't they, be upset about the garage being full? Actually, people are very forgiving about garages. So, especially if you've got a large space, they can still see the space. They just know that you're moving. And that's what you say is they're moving, so it's full. As far as decluttering, it's that I can't remember the author, but she said if it doesn't bring you joy, if you haven't worn something in a year, it needs to go. If it's something you forgot you even had, you don't use it, get rid of it. And then you start your before you list about a month before you get your 3 piles: Goodwill, sell, and throw away, and you just purge, and that helps. And it helps you have a new start at your new place too. As far as smells go, our instinct is to put a bunch of plugins in and a bunch of Sensies all over. For the love, please do not do that. I tell people all the time the best smell is no smell. So if you know you have a known odor, like I've got golden retrievers. So I know if and when I go to sell my property, that is going to be a smell that I don't smell because I'm nose blind to it. But other people are going to walk in the door and smell them because Goldens are not as bad as Bulldogs, but they're not great. So we will have to, do something to cover that. So what we do is you do like a diffuser almost. You're going to put in a neutralizer. You can do plugins that are neutralizers. You can put in charcoal that's a neutralizer. There's lots of things. Baking soda is a neutralizer. All those things help.
Well, as we're wrapping up here, for anyone listening who's preparing to list soon but feeling a little anxious about keeping up with showings, what's one helpful step they can take this week to get ahead of the process?
Well, declutter is your first thing. And then the other thing that you can do is start making those arrangements. Figure out, what am I going to do with my dogs? What am I going to do with my cat? What am I going to do with my snakes? What am I going to do with your fish is fine, but the rest of them need a home. So kind of be thinking through, what are we going to do? And have a friend walk over that isn't in your house every day, and have them walk it and tell you, what do they smell? And then you can start looking at, how can I eradicate them?
Beautiful. Well, that is it for today's episode of Crafting Your Next Move. If you're thinking about selling in Cypress, Tomball, Memorial Villages, Inner Loop, or anywhere that's in the greater Houston area, visit craftrealtyteam.com to learn more or connect directly with Lori's team. And remember to like, leave a review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. And share this episode with someone you know who needs to hear it. Thank you, Lori.
Have a great day.
You too.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.